Welcome back, everyone. We are so glad to be all here together in the same time in this live session, and welcome to those of you who are going to be watching this out of sync later. It will reside on the YouTube channel, so you can always be part of it and always enjoy by commenting. We love for those of you who are here to be commenting in the chat and or raising your hand. Today, we are talking about creativity and some possibilities for sparking internal creativity. Our podcast this month, we talked about tapping into creativity for vitality and healing. And we had so many ideas as we were coming up with the podcast, and we didn't have time for all of them. And so we thought, oh, this would be a great opportunity for all of us to come together and share some of our ideas on how we keep our sparks alive. So, welcome, everyone. It's really good to be here with you. Ruth, do you want to lead us in a little bit with a thought or two on this topic?
Well, perhaps a bit caught by surprise. I didn't think I was going to lead anything, but one of the things that I always feel is that flower essence therapy in general does work towards this flow of both the connection with the earth and with the desire to be participating in the creative act, as well as the ability to tap into inspiration and guidance and the flow of the cosmic forces. So when we're doing flower essences in a more general way, in many ways, we're also working towards that. But of course, there are some practices and flower essences that are more specifically directed towards enhancing this flow and the creative act, stimulating the willingness to be engaged in the creative act. And it's great to hear what your experience is, each one of you who came and joined this call, because it's really great when we can build this collaborative kind of patchwork of ideas and inspiration.
Agreed. I think maybe we can just start out by invoking the spirit of the iris. And I think a lot of us probably have relationship with iris. It certainly is one that we know quite well in the flower essence library. All the different types of irises, the basic air quotes, basic iris from FES is the Douglas iris, which is a California native iris. It has the most incredible deep blue purple color, and it really does help us connect to that rainbow. You know, the iris is named after the goddess of the rainbow, and so helping to bring in that inspiration and landing it here on earth, helping us to land that force of life force energy, because creativity comes through us. It comes through our bodies, it comes through our spirits. It's not something that just sort of arrives on fairy wings. It's something that emerges out of our hearts, out of our hands. And so whatever form your creativity takes, it can be, I know for me, I like to engage in photography and being able to have the visual imagery of creativity. And Ruth, of late, you've been doing a lot of writing, and that's been a really a way of you to be expressing your thoughts and your feelings on everything that's going on, and giving you some sense of being able to connect to others. And creativity also has this quality of being able to connect to others. Um, do any of us here on the call, this is a community call, this is a group call, we really do like to hear from everyone here who wishes to speak. Feel free to go to the reactions button, go ahead and raise your hand if you want me to call you in. We're a small group today, so it's really comfortable, and hopefully you feel comfortable about being on. And we'd really like to hear maybe what your relationship to iris is, or what other essence you've been working with to help you connect to your creativity. Has anybody else been watching the columbines popping up yet? I'm really seeing them in my garden. They're starting to emerge, and they have the ones I'm growing have this really beautiful purple color, and they're reminding me of that character of iris emerging. Some of the color is similar, has some similarities, and that characteristic of the columbine, of being in that in the family with buttercups and all these other plants that are really sprouting right now, and helping me to connect to that characteristic of individuality. And that's also a piece of creativity. Yeah. Ro, thoughts?
Yeah, well, my thoughts coming in right now are that flower essences in general are such a creative modality. And, as Ruth said, flower essence therapy helps to connect to the creative flow. But I'm also thinking about just the solution itself, the flower essence liquid itself, the way that it's made in that co-creative process, and which we've always called it. It's a co-creative process. Everybody who makes flower essences describes it that way. And so if you've ever done that and made the essence, you kind of tap into that co-creative process with nature. And so it has this really inherent creative flow in the way that it was made to begin with. And I feel like that's what makes all essences such a perfect modality for helping us to tap into a creative flow within ourselves in whatever context that's taking. So I'd love to hear, not necessarily this essence. I mean, sure, this is great to tech. This essence helps with this thing, but in general, just tapping into that creativity and how flower essences like can be pulled back into that process. Like I know people who are artists that put flower essences into their paints, right? And so that kind of brings it back full circle in this creative process. And I don't know if anybody is doing that or tried to do that and what your experience is. I'd love to hear about that if you have.
Mm. I
Great.
haven't used flower essences in paintings, but I'm joining you from Vienna, Austria, by the way. It's my first time here. And hi. And many years ago, I used to work as an actress in the theater. And after a very big crisis in my life, I discovered the Bach flower essences for me. And they helped me not only to solve individual problems that I had, but to develop a deeper understanding for what it really, what my opportunities or possibilities as an actress really are, what it means to be in an artistic field and to help me express it on a deeper level and thus reach the audience much better. And so I fell in love with the Bach flower essences immediately. And it was interesting because first it helped me get a deeper connection to my profession. And then I found it so, this whole field of flower essences to be so interesting that I took the training, and now I'm mainly a flower essence practitioner and past life therapist in Vienna. But my main focus is combining the arts with healing. And I'm working a lot with artists of different fields. And it's such a pleasure to help them get a deeper connection to what they are doing. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great to
Fantastic.
hear your experience and how it evolved into how it flourished into your practice now.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. That's a really beautiful story. Do you have this may have been some time ago, but do you remember what flower essence really helped, you connect? What was the first essence that really called to you?
I think it was agrimony was one of the important ones. And it's they say that agrimony is at least in German, they say that agrimony is the essence for actors. And it helps you to express your true feeling and not have to play a role all the time. And it helped me to express joy more freely and more spontaneously. And so that was, for me personally, that was a very important essence in my first, in my first bottle.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. That was really great. Appreciate it. And welcome if you're here for the first time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Mary.
Yeah, I love that. That was lovely, because performing arts isn't the art one, is one of the arts that I'm not real familiar with. I used to have an art studio, and it was commercial, so it was people could come in and paint and do things, but I've done paint with the flower essences in it, and I started doing that when I was doing feng shui and doing the consultations, and when I first rented my first building for my healing arts center, we just took all the flower essences and a pendulum, and we decided, okay, this room needs ta-da, and what would that be fun, rather than going for the ones we thought. We just let it be very free flowing, and everybody would say, oh, this is the room that has the joy in it, or this was the room that has the seriousness in it, or the whatever. But it is very fun. We put it into the cans of paint that went on the walls, and just used it creatively. It was and for creating a mood, and then we always creatively blend things for each of the rooms for a spray. When things are, oh, it's going to be winter again, we've got to start bringing out something for helping us with that time change. And so it is the creativity we get to use. It's just part and parcel. So that's kind of the way I've used it. The one I've used most, because my first real big encounter was the bush essences, and they have a creativity formula, and so turkey bush is something I use when I'm trying to get serious about art. But I don't really often get very serious about it. It's not meant for me for seriousness. It's meant for me for not serious. So.
And isn't that where the essences really help us, is that there's not like a mistake you can make. It's not, as part of this playground, this creative playground, you can always just try something and see what happens, see what works. And it feels very low risk to me that you can, put something in your paint and it would actually be quite appealing. That's certainly something that Jane Bell, one of my teacher, talked about how she did at her house when she first moved in, and she put essences in all the paint that went on the walls, and it really shifted the space. You could feel it for years as part of that energetic placeholder. So being able to use it in the home is a really, well, or any environment, is a really great way of creatively using essences. Thanks, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Robin.
I usually only do the meditation calls, so it's unusual to speak. I am curious, with the creative chakra being like chakra 2 and chakra 3, I think of more oranges and yellows, and like on the East Coast right now, the daffodils are out. And so some of our daffodils are like this bright yellow with a bright orange center. And I just think of that, of creating, just creating more joy and lightness and connecting to higher self, and expressing, being able to connect into our creativity via that route. But I don't know what your thoughts are.
No, I think that's it's a great way of talking about, sort of having to think about, for me, the celestial colors that I was mentioning earlier, the purple, blue kind of, that is the higher tone, but it's about bringing it in and then expressing it out. And so totally, those hotter, warmer, louder colors are, I think, part of the dynamic of being able to express. What have you ever worked with daffodil before? Have you ever worked with some of these essences or made them?
I have, and I'm embarrassed to say that I think I've made both iris and daffodil, and it's been a couple years, and I'm not sure. I don't remember what my experience was, but I'm inspired to revisit that now and see. I could use some creativity, so that would be great.
Yeah. And what is your creative practice?
Um, I guess it's probably in the kitchen cooking. I do like to garden. I walk the dog, but and I do like to make essences. It's just not it's not always feasible, I guess, to be able to find the time on the day that there's the perfect sun with no clouds. And it's been very rainy in the East Coast lately. I'm sure we'll appreciate that later, but today's the first day we've had sunshine in a while.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cooking is clearly a creative act. Cooking is very clearly something that we can engage with on a very regular basis and kind of have to for the whole eating thing. And so I encourage you to consider your cooking as being a very creative act. So thanks for coming on and sharing.
thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate you being here.
We appreciate you being here too. Anybody else like to share their creative act?
Yes, I'd like to tell something
Yes, please.
some more about my work, because I took up writing many years ago, and what I experienced in my work with artists and the flower essences, I wrote down, and there was it's a book that was published last year, and it's called Bach Flower Essences for people in the creative business. And my partner, I'm together with Martin. He's my partner. He's a visual artist and a painter and illustrator, and he did all the the drawings for each essence in the book, and they are only in black and white. And after the book was finished and it came out, we thought, wouldn't it be great to have cards, Bachflower cards in color. And we tried different styles at first, but nothing seemed to really work out. And it was such a fascinating thing to watch this process that began then, because after all those things that we tried and nothing worked, there was one day when suddenly one image appeared and one card was done, and we knew this is the style that it has to be. And let me show you some of those. They are very colorful, and I love that, especially because there's very strong colors. And I think that most people that don't really know flower essences really well, they think they're just nice things, and they don't really realize the power that's in the essences. And I think the colors express it. And then every day, one new color, one new card was just, happened. And then we started showing it to friends and colleagues and also clients. And it was so surprising the feedback, to get the feedback from them, because they told me that just from looking at the card, or just from putting a glass of water on the card and taking sips, they could feel exactly the power the potential that's normally only in the essence. And so it has turned out to be an addition to taking essences. And there are some people who don't really like to take essences. So this has become for them a way to also get in touch with these energies. And so it's quite exciting to what has developed since then. Yeah, the book is in German, so but I was thinking, because when I found your podcast, I thought it was so generous of you to provide your insights for free. And I'd like to say a thank you for this. And if I knew where to send it to, I would send you a book and the cards, so you can get an impression of it. Maybe you know someone who speaks German and who can translate a bit.
That's very kind. Thank you very much. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're available. Yeah, my German skills are very limited, so but yes,
Speak a little bit German.
but visually I could see the cards. But yeah, thank you. And thank you for joining us. And we're really glad that you're a podcast listener and that you've enjoyed the work that we've been putting out there. So yeah, and can particularly relate to how useful and cool the cards are as having, one more way of people to connect in with that energy that the essences bring. It's kind of one of my favorite things is to have, images on my lock screen of my phone, so that every time I open up my phone, I get that impression of the
Yes.
essence that I might need. So,
Yes.
but yeah,
And it
thank you.
inspired one client of mine. She has the cards, and it inspired her to come up with a drawing of a new flower. It's just it's not a flower that exists, but she's a creative person too, and there's, I don't know who said it, but it is said that you can understand a plant only fully if you have drawn it. And I think that's what happened with the cards in the process when Martin started doing it, because he is a very skilled, artist, and he could do it so well. And he's not an expert in Bach flower essences, but by having to, really, what do you say, connect with these through the drawing, he must have gotten a very big understanding of them. And what it was for me, so it was really beautiful to then look at the paintings, at the pictures, and see the way he painted it showed me a new something new of the flower essences that I hadn't realized before, without him even being aware of that he was doing this. So, and I also, I suggest to my clients, if they want to really try and draw the one flower essences, or maybe the 2 or 3 essences that they are taking, to help them connect even deeper with it. And it's very effective, I think.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like you noticed and like you've experienced is that by spending that time connecting to the plant visually and engaging in the drawing process of whatever that might be, you can really attune to the plant in a way that you can't just by glancing at it or I know what that looks like, but when you actually sit down and, get the pen out or, however you engage in the artistic process, you do understand it on a much deeper level and on a much more observed level. So I appreciate that you've brought that piece in, because that's a really great exercise for anyone who wants to get to know a particular plant better, is to just spend some time and visualize it and draw it. Yeah. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter if it even looks like the plant. It's the process of that deep engagement. So
Yeah,
thank you for
and
Maria for bringing that.
actually, as part of one part of our course material for the practitioner training that we're beginning is kind of a scratch book where you can put your
Yes.
notes, where you have a page for each essence. And preferably, as you're looking at pictures of that flower, etc., that you actually do your own little sketches there, or sometimes just impressions and color, and have that be part of how you begin to build that living picture of each one of these flowers within yourself. But let's hear from April, talking about flowers and the season that we're in and her name.
Oh my goodness, I know. Hi everyone. Um, I am so glad you're offering this call, and I loved the podcast about creativity and flowers. And I'm just starting to sort of connect the dots of my own life and the role that flowers have played all along. And now coming to a place like I hadn't thought about setting out to become a flower essence practitioner. But after having a session with Ruth, maybe a month ago, if that, and then getting the email about the training that was coming up, all of a sudden I was like this gravitational pull into this world that I've been dancing around the edges of, now realizing for quite a long time. So a couple of things I wanted to share, and actually my sister just came to pick me up to pick my car up, and she's like, "We have to go," and I was like, "I just want to share it," and then I have to hop off. Um, I so in 2022, I kept this little journal. It's this little square thing that could easily go into my bag and even some of my pockets. It's flower sketches, 100 days of radiant openings. This apparently was quite its initiation in itself. The first picture that I drew, and this was all just like the idea of having a creative practice that is defined, because you could draw anything. I love drawing. My medium is painting, mostly watercolor now, even though I'm not even trained in watercolor. I just like color and form and shape, and flowers being the subject that has really stepped forward. So having some kind of the structure container. And that was, I don't know if any of you know the 100-day project that it's on Instagram. There's different sort of versions, but there's one main one. I've started like 3 times and have never followed through. I like initiating things, but like getting. So anyway, it was 100 days, but it doesn't mean that I drew every day. It was just the container. So about half of those days was to make just a line drawing of whatever was blooming. So it started in February and it became this record, this time marker, almost like a time stamp of flowers as their own kind of clock, like a seasonal clock of what came in bloom and the early bloomers, and then all the way through whatever 100 days later. So, and up front, I wrote formula for radiant openings, flower essence. And I drew this little picture of a little bottle. I don't even remember this. Did someone make this for me or was it anyway? It had pink mimosa, borage, and Maui wild orchid. I don't even remember. I must have been taking that along the way. So um, there's most of them are line drawings, and then some of them have color. Like I went back in and colored in later. Um, and like we have the fiddlenecks. I'm in Northern California, so a lot of these were California wildflowers, but also in people's gardens. And I went up to Mendocino. I love this one with the sweet pea that like um, how to bring the essence of the form into just a very simple line drawing. Um, I went up to Mendocino, and on the coast, the only one really that I didn't do with line drawing was that wild iris. And I had the most magical experience of while I was sitting like at sunset on this cliff with the ocean and like painting this, not painting, this is Prismacolor colored pencils. A hawk moth, like the size of a hummingbird, giant, came and was like pollinating the wild irises, I actually thought I was hallucinating because those creatures are so otherworldly. I had to go and like look it up online to see like hummingbird moth that looks like a hummingbird. And now I've seen them since, but that moment just was marked with this such like otherworldly magic of the life of the creative life of nature that's happening, whether or not humans are witnessing or noticing. It's like, yeah, that was just a very special moment. So, I share all of that. And now I have those irises that planted. I last year got some wild irises to plant in my yard. And now there's like 8 flowers that are blooming, the purple, just right as I walk up to the door. And so I think kind of what you were sharing, Maria, is like all the forms and ways that we're surrounded by flowers or we're bringing them into our physical body or just energetic or spiritual. Um, Surrounding ourselves in the way with that creative energy of spring has such a giddiness to like this creative form. And yeah, it's one of my favorite times. I love all the seasons, right, have their teachings, but this time when things are just that opening up. Um, and yeah, that's what my name, April. I mean, the Latin origin is to open, and that's what spring does. And so that's what I love connecting with is like, how can we open to the creativity? I'll share one more quick thing, which is I can easily get stuck and blocked and feel heavy and just feel like everything's inside, but it doesn't know how to come out or find the route, the way to come out. And so that's where the creative stuckness can happen is just the internal process to open the valve almost to like let things flow out, knowing they're not going to come out in the final form. They kind of need the awkward, rusty, like, oh, that wasn't the quite the right thing idea to get to just open the valve so the like I almost think of sometimes like rusty pipes, right? Like the water comes out first and it's like before it flows clean, more clean. Anyway, and that's what I had gone to Ruth with of like, I have this collection of paintings I need to start working on. I actually have a deadline. It's all in there and it feels like it's just gonna burst, but it's not wanting to flow for whatever reason. And she just said in the conversation, she said, I think, Blackberry is just really wanting to be present or speak or something. And I was like, Blackberry, I've never thought of that as a flower and since to work with in the realm of creativity necessarily. Um, but I will say that immediately, like within 24 hours, I was painting the messy initial versions to get through to start this collection. And then the collection, which I was kind of looking for possibly one plant to have as a center, I was just unformed. And then it was like, oh yeah, that's right, because it's going to be blackberry. Um, so I'm so grateful to the flowers and to you, Ruth, and to this, this community for focusing on creativity and all the forms that it can find through each of us and how flowers and particularly flower essences can support that. Yeah.
Thank you, April.
Thank
That's
you.
really sweet. And thank you for sharing your journal with us. It's exciting to see that little, it's like a snapshot of each moment. And by being able to tune back into that moment, it is a little bit like taking an essence because it connects you into that inspired moment of when you took pen to paper or pencil to paper. And there is a certain time lapse quality where we can connect back into those moments, of wonder and of that creative process just emerging from you. And I love your hawk moth story. That's so trippy. So thank you, April. Yeah, I think Miriam is next.
Hello. I'm sorry. I just kind of I joined in right on time, but the thing is, because I'm cooking too, I wasn't able to catch a lot of the things. But Miss Maria, I was actually interested in what a lot of what you had to say. Is there any way possible, or anywhere we could find your work, or any more information about your work?
Yes, it's on my homepage.
Okay.
It's called mariagrande.at
Okay.
for
Dot
Austria.
AT?
AT, mariagrande.at.
Okay, all right then. Okay, okay. Thank you so much.
And please feel free to put that in the chat so that people can find that
Yes, yes,
link.
please.
That
Yes.
might be an easy way to do it too. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Miriam. Did you have a
Yeah,
question
yeah.
also, or a thought to share?
Oh,
Looks like not. Oh,
oh no, no. Actually, before I'm sorry. Before I let Miss Joanne go, no, I didn't have anything else. But I did have to ask you, is this Zoom going to be recorded and put up somewhere?
yes, absolutely. We always have these Zooms available on our YouTube channel afterwards. So yes, you're more than welcome to catch the pieces that you didn't catch this time. They're all there.
Okay, all
Thanks
right.
for
Thank you
joining
so
us
much,
today.
Miss Kathleen. Thank you.
Take good care. Joni.
Hello. I don't know if any of you have heard Brene Brown talk about creativity. So amazing. I heard it recently. She said, not like the thwarting of creative expression is not benign. It can metastasize. That idea was so strong and powerful for me. So I was thinking about creativity from kind of a Rumi perspective. You know, Rumi talks about you don't have to seek love, you just have to address the barriers that you've put up against love because we are love. I think the same thing is true for creativity. So I kind of was working like an autopsy on why I'm not being creative. What are the things that get in the way? And I have a beautiful tree on our property, and it's a silver maple. So I recently made a flower essence of the buds using the boiling method. I just learned about that. I'm so excited. And that bud has these electrified little antennae coming out of them that are bright red, and they almost feel like they're going to grab me and pull me in. And what I like to do when I make an essence is be with the plant, listen to the plant, and then I do the research afterwards. So this plant was really grabbing me. And then when I did the research afterwards, it really blew my mind that the things that it could support and benefit included nurturing and mothering. So thinking about healing past attachment stuff, connection to nature, which is one of my muses, like probably the biggest muse that I have in my life. But it said that it really helps to overcome stagnation and build confidence, which are things that really get in the way for me. So those are, the barriers. And I'm hoping that I haven't actually taken the essence yet because I made a blend and I want to give it an opportunity to take and see how that works. But I'm really excited to try this silver maple, on the path to allow this creative energy out. And what is it that stops it? It's this feeling of lack of self-worth, getting stuck, I look through an Ayurveda lens and I'm Kapha, so if I'm imbalanced, I can be very stuck and muddy. So I just have so much excitement around working with this silver maple. Yeah. I took lots of pictures of it, and I'm putting pictures around, and I put that picture on my phone to, maybe be taking it in that way. And yeah, it's just really exciting. So thank you. And thank you for hosting newbies and students. I'm just about to start this course with you, beautiful women. I'm so excited. I feel like Christmas. And yeah, I just feel like this is at 60, a bunch of doors and windows opening that were previously closed. And I couldn't be more grateful. So thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome. We're really glad that you're part of this too. It's really interesting to hear about your silver maple experience, and how the buds called to you, and how that bud essence came about. It's really interesting to sort of see how that evolves and how you'll be taking it and working with it. It certainly reminds me a little bit about Dr. Bach's chestnut bud, seeing as it's one of the versions of the same plant is the white chestnut flower essence. And so how those two have a relationship, but they're also very different as the way that you use them as essences. So very intriguing to see how the silver maple will emerge in your experience, as a bud essence. And then who knows, maybe someday you'll be making a flower essence to sort of compare and contrast. But yeah, I think that the thing that I heard and picked up on, that characteristic of the stagnation, releasing stagnation, is certainly something that I'm familiar of with the maple family as a whole, that they help to kind of like that springtime energy, help it move. So yeah, thank you for sharing your experience.
Can I add just one little thing, Kathleen, is I forgot to mention that this really blew my mind, is on our property, I consider this the mother tree of the property. And I found that so interesting that when I did research afterwards, that mothering and nurturing was the first bullet point of what that addressed. And isn't it miraculous how these plants speak to us? I find it hard to believe that a plant would speak to me. Like, who am I? And then, when you do the research and you hear that that is an aspect of it, it's like, wow, mind blowing. Just, isn't it? Do you ever get over this magic that these flowers are? And they're just so willing. All we have to do is pay attention. And there it all is. It's just, wow.
If there were still, bumper stickers, all we have to do is pay attention, and there it is. I love it. Thank you. Yeah, it is a magical thing. It's I don't think any of us are over it. That's why we're here. So thank you. Yeah, Mary.
One of my favorite uses of creativity essences is when I'm working with someone who is trying to conceive and maybe is not doing, it's not working as well as they would like it to, whether that's biological or not. And my favorite experience is my own daughter, who is an extremely talented artist in her own right in many, many ways. And I opened this art studio that we were in conjunction with her, because we had come to the conclusion she needed to stimulate some creative energy because she wasn't doing so hot on this baby making project she was working on. And so we got together and we were doing all things like logos and some of the artsy things together. And she said, well, now that we have the website name, and that was good, or the actual name and the domain name. And she goes, that was really lovely. But she said, I have one more job for you. Will you go to the ultrasound with me in the morning? So that was just a real, it was just a validation that all the creative essences we were using, all of it had stimulated her wanting to start this business, but, it had also, she'd embodied it. She thoroughly embodied it. So, yeah.
That's a
Anyway,
beautiful
thank
story.
you. It's a little fun story.
Yeah, that's lovely. And yes, it's that creative impulse of however it channels through, and whatever you're seeking. That's lovely that she got a 2-for-1.
Well,
Doing
actually, at that time, it was more than 2. But because they'd been in vitro, she actually had 3. But she did not carry all 3 to term, because that was that was fine. That was kind of the plan. But I have a
Well,
beautiful
I was thinking art
granddaughter.
studio plus baby, like 2 for
Right,
1.
well, I know, but he said I couldn't have done art studio plus 3 babies. It was like, okay. So anyway, but and because that was her first, I spent more time at the art studio than she did. I mean, it became more, but it was a joint effort. It was a real maternal experience together. Yeah. So.
Well, and it's lovely that creating a space for creativity. It's like making a physical structure around your desire to inspire creativity in others. That's a really beautiful way of bringing that energy through. And so many. There is certainly that ideal that somebody who's creative is just constantly creative and they're on their own and they're never doing anything but the creative act. But not everybody is like that. A lot of people do need that communal experience in order to feel that creative spark. I know that's been something for part of my creative practices. I really love to do soul collage when I'm able to. And for me, that's a community experience. It's a group of us all together working to create these visual images. And that's for how I really enjoy doing creativity. Creativity on my own is, okay, I can do that, but there's something really lovely about creativity and community.
Yeah, and I remember my mother used to talk about one special lesson that she had with a man who was very wise around this. And he talked about the unconscious scanning and then the conscious planning of a creative project. So there's also these processes that we go through that we're kind of picking things up, like almost like when you're walking and you look at the dry flowers in the floor, the petals, the leaves, whatever, and you're picking up pieces that inspire creativity within you in different ways. You're kind of gathering. And then there are these moments where the ideas emerge, and then there's these moments when you really apply that energy and in a focused way to produce something. And all of these stages are so much part. In fact, I will never forget an article that I read on National Geographic about a woman who makes, I think it was in Mexico, and she made these statues with clay. But she said she had these periods that she was feeling distressed, and then she had to go outside and pick up many things. And then eventually that flow of the ability to produce the new clay figures would come through her, and that whole production would flow. And so there's these stages in the creative process that are fascinating as well.
And it comes back to that. I think, Joni, you were the one mentioning that getting things out of the way of the creative process. Hopefully I got the person right, about who brought that forward. And like you're saying, Ruth, it's like, it's not just sitting there and, fighting it, but it's going out and changing the scene sometimes that will help to shift things and to interact with other things that help to move that process along. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Adele.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about when you're talking there. It's like I think that's what got me into flower essences was because when we were in lockdown and COVID, I had to think of creative stuff to do with the kids. So we were buying all these bits and pieces. We were making candles. I was engraving glasses. I was painting stuff onto glass, just keeping them occupied. And it was in the middle of those lockdowns that I messed around and just tried out making my first flower essence. And that was where my vision changed to a kaleidoscope of the view of it, and I was like, right, I'm hooked, and that was it. So and then I've done like a flower photography course, which is a workshop for the day, you know, in the bog, the little bee orchid and all that. So it was, and I'm not great at photography, but I really enjoyed it. And I found that the Indian paintbrush gave me the confidence to step outside my comfort zone and try it. I even went to a watercolor art class, and I just found this while you were talking, and it was like the header. So it was like just all the little bits and pieces. They're not perfect, but I did go get some watercolors and a sketchbook after that. So it's there for me to, and every essence I do take or I do work on, I do sit there and I just try and draw it, you know, and it is, you just connect in deeper with the plant. It's like, you know, it's like the plant is, you know, you're taking the time to get to know it. So then it's happier to pass on its I suppose it's information or its story, because you're taking the time to admire it as well, I suppose. So that's where my creativity has come out.
Yeah, like any relationship, right? It's you're taking the time to get to know the plant better. And of course the relationship is going to be have more depth and be more interesting. I heard you say maybe once, maybe twice, that it's not perfect. And I think that's the beauty of creativity, is that it's not perfect. It's not supposed to be. If you look at plants, they're not perfect either. You know, that perfect ideal of, you know, absolute geometry and absolute perfection, it does not exist in nature. So
I
welcome to
suppose,
all of us.
yeah, I suppose maybe that's why a lot of some people don't feel that they're arty or artistic in any way, is that they're like, well, I couldn't draw that, you know, but you haven't tried. It's like I'm doing the wild rose for my plant study. So I looked up and I says, right, well, how would I draw the wild rose? And so I found this thing on Instagram. It was like a step by step on how to draw a wild rose. But now it's like I'm sitting there, I'm doodling it, and I'm drawing it as I'm just, oh yeah, you do the dots and you do this and that, and it just, but then it brings the wild rose back into me, because yeah, I'm just connecting in without even knowing that I'm connecting in, and then things start to flow. So it doesn't have to be perfect, I've learned. So that's good.
And we shouldn't even try. letting go that need to be perfect. It's like, where does that even come from? It doesn't even make sense. None of us are perfect, and that's part of what makes us human and interesting, and makes plants interesting too, if they were perfect. Yeah, Ruth.
Yeah, and in fact, Dr. Bach had that essay of his called Free Thyself, which was, of course, one of my favorites as the Aquarius that I am, you know, but it was all about this thing now, don't tell kids that they should draw it this way, you know, just give them the colors and let them play with it. So it's one to go back to the free thyself and just allow that expression to flow.
I think Serato could help people who have not found out their own style or their own kind of expression, and who think they have to fit into some, you know, pattern. Or unfortunately, in most schools, even in the creative the classes, they are taught how to do it in a certain style. And that's just a shame, because I think that's when children start to lose their their intuition and their singularity, their individuality.
And
But
their
Serato is actually a
spontaneity.
flower essence that helps a lot of artists, I find. Mm.
I'm hearing crabapple all over this conversation. You know, crabapple isn't worried about being perfect. Crabapple embraces imperfections and things being a little messy and life, right? And the apples, I was driving in Sebastopol yesterday, and the apples are just blooming everywhere, which it's not crabapple, but these are edible apples, orchards. And they're just so exuberant. The flowers are just everywhere and the trees are craggy as can be and, covered in lichens and stuff. And it's just that life force is just exploding out of them. And they just don't really care that their skin isn't perfect and that the flowers, aren't perfect. And it's so beautiful seeing that expression and that just that life just emerging and in it, in all its beauty and in all its imperfection. Lovely. Thank you. That's beautiful. And Adele, I'm glad you brought Indian paintbrush in. I know we talked about Indian paintbrush a little bit in the podcast, and I've just been really meditating on it lately of just that characteristic it has of that it's termed a hemiparasitic. It's not a true parasite, but it does connect in to apparently to the grasses and some of the other plants that it grows near and with. And so it needs that partnership in order to live and to thrive and to do its thing. And just like all of us need that partnership, we need somebody or something in our life to help us connect into the earth and to be able to come out and express ourselves fully. None of us exist in a vacuum. We're all connected. And so by connecting to a plant or connecting to another individual, whatever it might be, for us to really consider rooting in and drawing from that relationship of sitting with a plant and drawing on that inspiration that it's bringing forth into the earth. I just feel like there, to me, I can consider that idea of creativity oftentimes seems so disembodied and something I can't connect to, because it's like you're just supposed to get this flash of something out of the blue, of this inspired whatever. And for me, it's so much more that connection to other things. That's that connection to something tangible, something physical, a plant growing. And oh, I want to bring that flower into the house and I want to arrange it with this, or I want to see it in this way. I want to take a photograph from this angle. So for me, creativity comes out of relationship. Not that the other kind might not be good, but I think for a lot of us, it comes that way. And for us to consider ourselves creative by the way that we compose a salad or that we interact with any activity that we might do, that's an act of creativity. It doesn't have to be, capital C creativity. It's everywhere. We have just a few minutes before we're going to bring this circle to a close. I'm really so happy that you all have come and joined. It's really lovely to be in community together talking about creativity. Does anyone want to bring one more flower into this little circle that we've created, celebrating creativity? You could put it in the chat if you're shy. So far, larch. Thanks, Miriam. I'm really excited that you brought larch in. That's one that I've been thinking about. I was meditating on my Flora of Asia golden larch today about how this characteristic, it's not exactly a larch, it's a relative of a larch, but yeah, that character of the tree quality of standing up strong and giving something a try and bringing something through. And box larch just has such an incredible characteristic of bringing that life force through and trying. It's like, let's just see if we can set down roots here and see how we can grow. It gives us that courage to try. And Sylvia, oh gosh, I wish I could pronounce that. Sempachuchi. Yep, not going to be able to do it. It's an essence from Mexico, but thank you for bringing that in. I wish I knew how to say that. Feel free to come in and say it properly if you'd like to share your essence with us. But she says it's great for the voice. It helps me write my poetry and my storybook. Beautiful.
I also wanted to comment on kind of a bit of a different spirit between the iris and the turkey bush. So we have in the FES, in the California essences, we have the iris with that gesture of opening in the early spring, and the purple, we also have irises from different elevations that vary a bit in color. And the turkey bush that's from the bush essences, I always like the fact that it comes from an area where they have found a lot of cave paintings from very ancient times there. And it has this magenta color and these stamens that kind of radiate out. And I often, when I'm choosing that one, I like to tell clients that I want that one to help just bring forth that wild creativity in them. So just think of that wild creativity that is part of you and that has, it's kind of an ancient creativity that's wild and that lives within you. And I think that's something that we all have alive within us. And one of these essences, like the turkey bush, can help to nurture that and bring that spark.
And it also reminds me of wild rose. I think that's a very creative essence too. Yeah, because
There's also
joy of living, the joy about, you know, creativity and the joy of being alive and being a creative being. Yeah, that's what we are. Sorry.
yeah, okay. There's also when we're in Australia at Christmas, there's a bird called the bush turkey, and he is extremely creative in how he finds food. So yeah, that's how I remember the turkey bush, because yeah, we experienced his creativity when he was robbing some of our camp food. But anyway.
Fantastic. Thank you. So on that note, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thanks for joining us. We will have the video up on the YouTube channel. We hope that you've enjoyed it. We hope that you can, if you haven't yet listened to the podcast is available anywhere you get your podcasts, and also at thefloweressencepodcast.com. We are really looking forward to those of you who are part of our Flower Essence Society practitioner training program that starts this weekend. We're very excited about that. Welcome everyone in for that. And you know, next month we'll pick another topic. If you have a suggestion on a topic that you'd like for us to talk about together, we are really open to that. Go ahead and email us at hello@floweressencestudies.com and we will put it on the list. Thanks everyone for being here. See you next time.